Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, we'll jump right in. Thanks, everyone, for joining on this gloomy Friday. I hope you're enjoying the weather outside. Spring is springing finally. Um, my name is Reshma. I'm the Student Development and Leadership Coordinator in the Office of Student Life. And this is our um, final financial health workshop in this entire series. If you've come to all of the workshops, congrats. I'm happy that you joined. Even if you didn't join any, I'm happy that you joined this one. And we can introduce the series on YouTube for you to rewatch when you're ready. I'll jump right in and introduce our speaker, Ananya Jalan. As a reminder, Ananya is not a financial advisor and is providing information for educational purposes solely. I'll just pass it off to Ananya.
Thanks, Reshma, and thank you all for coming. I know it's late in the afternoon on a Friday, but our last part of the financial health series that we'll be covering today is family financial success. And like always, we'll start off with an agenda. We'll check in. We'll go into various aspects of family financial success, including retirement, which branches off from the investments workshop that we covered last week. We'll get into life insurance. We'll also talk about tools for children, investing in 529s as parents and guardians, and also online platforms and tools that you can that you can give to your children so that they can learn about finance from a young age. We'll also go into joint accounts and credit cards, and then we'll talk about conversation topics around finance that you should have with yourself, with your family, with your children, with a significant other or a partner, with parents, and so on. We'll finish off with actionable next steps, open it up to Q&A, and then also go into some resources, and then we'll have feedback as usual. Okay, so just checking in, I'm pretty sure some of you have met me in the last sessions, but hello again, it's wonderful to see you, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Ananya Jalan. Academically, I finished my master's in management science and engineering, which was a lot of finance, operations, and engineering classes. And I worked at the SEC, which is the police of financial institutions, as well as the stock exchange, and I was a consultant for a financial health company. I want to create a dialogue to discuss financial aspects of our lives more openly and remove that taboo around it. And why is this discussion around financial health important? Money permeates across aspects of our lives, and it plays a part in how we interact within all of our relationships. And while we can't control our income levels, we can control how we can observe and control how we feel about our money. And you may have a number of feelings around finance or math, possibly negative. You might feel anxious when dealing with money. Maybe the math is overwhelming. You hate all of it. You might be obsessed where you log in and you check all of your accounts and all of your cards almost every day. But wherever you are on that spectrum, thank you for taking the time to come here. That itself is a significant step forward. I also want to acknowledge the confines of the systems that we live in. The financial system is known to be one of the most complex phenomena created. And you have a number of options. And so we understand that all of these inequities exist, but through all of these financial workshop series, we dove into each of these financial concepts to empower you with the means to transform your financial health. And it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. But after going through the series, and hopefully it has helped, you should be better equipped with the knowledge and the tools to move in the right direction. That is the right direction for you. And like usual, the 3 people that stay throughout the duration of the session will be entered into a raffle to receive the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And this is the last workshop where you can win some books. So please make sure to stay through the session and also complete the survey at the end of the session, and you'll be entered into another raffle. And just as a disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, accountant, psychologist, or financial advisor, nor am I holding myself out to be. The information that is contained in this workshop and presentation is not a substitute for financial advice from a professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation. And with that, let us begin. Okay. Bringing up our handy poll everywhere. I am going to put the link in the chat. If you want to answer in the chat, please feel free to do so. I contribute to a retirement plan, yes or no? I see a couple of yeses in there. Yes. Okay. So I see a lot of people contribute to a retirement plan. Okay. Let's get into it. So what is a retirement plan and why is it important? Retirement plans will provide income when you stop working. And why is this important? So life expectancy is higher today than it was 50 to 100 years ago. And mostly due to medical reasons and general aging, we may stop working past a certain age, but it takes money to live. And so we need to ensure that for those times in the future, we have money saved up that has compounded over the time we have worked and can help us in the future. And what are the different types of retirement plans? And what are some limits? So there are many different types of retirement plans. There is IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, SEPs, 457s. Now, what are all of these? IRAs are called individual retirement accounts. And a traditional IRA is a tax-advantaged savings plan where your contributions might be tax deductible. That means that it might reduce the amount of tax you pay when you contribute to a traditional IRA. You hear a lot about this term called distributions. What are distributions? Distributions are money that you take out of a retirement plan. So in a traditional IRA, when you take money out, it will be taxed at your ordinary income rate. So whichever tax bracket you fall in, you will be taxed at that rate when you take money out or when you take a distribution. Next is a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is also a tax-advantaged savings plan, but contributions cannot be tax deductible. You will put in money after your tax is paid, but your distributions that are qualified might be tax-free. You won't owe taxes or penalties on withdrawal if you withdraw after a certain age. If you withdraw before you're 59 and a half, which is the current age, you will owe penalties. An SEP is a simplified employee pension plan. You have 403bs, which are tax sheltered annuity plans that are offered usually by schools and charities. And a 457 is a retirement plan by an organization, which is a government organization, which is state, local, or organizations that are tax exempt. You might also hear a lot about a company match. So what is a company match? In 401ks and 403bs, when you put a certain amount of money in, your company will also contribute to your retirement plan. They will also put a certain amount of money on top of what you put in. And so a lot of companies will do a one-to-one match where which for every dollar that you put in up to a certain threshold, they will put in a dollar as well. They might do a 50% match where you put in a certain amount of your income and they will match half of it, again, up to a certain threshold. And these are very good tools because you have your organization that is also contributing to your retirement. So if you do have company matches, you should be leveraging those. But why is retirement important? Just some facts. Mean Social Security income is about $1,700 as of 2023, which we know in NYC is barely enough to cover rent, let alone food, transportation, and possibly higher medical costs at retirement age. The mean retirement age in the US is between 65 to 69, where 70% of Americans will retire between 65 to 69. The IRS also allows penalty-free withdrawals from retirement accounts after you are 59 and a half. So if you try to withdraw money before that retirement age of 59 and a half, there's usually a 10% withdrawal penalty. And the full retirement age is 67, but you can receive Social Security benefits as early as 62, but the amount that you would receive is 30% lower than what you would get at 67, which can be hundreds of dollars. So we do need to make sure that we are supplementing our Social Security benefits with personal retirement accounts that we have created while we're working. And also, almost in a survey in 2022, they found that almost 45% of American households had no savings in retirement accounts. And so it's very important that we understand the importance of retirement, what kinds of benefits we have through company matches, and also we learn how to estimate how much you would need for retirement. And there are a couple of ways to estimate how much you would need for retirement. A very easy rule is the 75% rule that you see on the right-hand side there. That is, if you make $80,000 before retirement, per year, you would need $60,000 per year during retirement. And another rule is in total how much you would need for about 30 years. If you've retired and you need 30 years of income, you divide by 4%. So you divide your annual retirement income. If you estimate that you will need $60,000 per year during retirement, you divide that by 4%. So you see the 60,000 divided by 0.04, and that means you would need about $1.5 million for retirement. And these are assuming that you have paid off your mortgage and are in excellent health, because inflation that we've learned about during our previous workshops exists, and we might have inflation that increases at a much faster rate in the future, or it might stay at that 3%. But assuming average inflation of 3%, these are the amounts that you would possibly need to save. And what is the need to invest for retirement? Social Security benefits are not guaranteed. You might hear a lot in the news currently about Social Security benefits possibly being reduced. Maybe your 401ks are going to disappear after 20 or 30 years. You're hearing a lot about how the money might run out. And a lot of these times, Social Security benefits are not guaranteed. We don't know how much you would get at the 30, 40, 50 years down the line. And retirement accounts help in immediate tax benefits as well as savings over time. And like we've learned in previous sessions, the compounding of money that you put into your target fund 401ks, those large compounding effects really add up. And so the takeaway here is make sure you have a retirement account, maximize to your company's match. So if a company matches you 6% and they're matching you dollar for a dollar, make sure to invest or to put in that 6% if you can afford to do so. And the other piece that we talked about during our last session as well, don't just let your money sit in the account. You need to make sure that your money has been used and it has bought a fund and is sitting in a target date fund for a retirement account. So if you are going to retire in 2040, make sure your target date fund is a 2040 target date. Okay. Moving on to life insurance. Now, what is life insurance? A lot of us hear about life insurance. Life insurance is a contract between an insurance company as well as a policyholder, which is usually us individuals, that provides financial security for the policyholder's loved ones in case of the policyholder's death. Now, the important piece in life insurance is to make sure that the life insurance company that you are taking a policy from is in good financial health. Because a lot of times you're not looking at a short-term life insurance. There's something you are going to take out for maybe 20, 30, 40 years down the line. And you want to make sure that the company that you have taken a policy out of is in good financial health. So in case 30, 40 years down the line, something does happen and the policyholder passes away, it ensures that that company still exists to provide money for your loved ones. There are two main types of life insurance. There is term life insurance, which is usually for 10, 20, or 30 years. It lasts a certain number of years. And you have permanent life insurance. Permanent life insurance is more expensive than term. It stays in force for the entirety of the insured policyholder's life, unless the policyholder decides that they're going to stop paying premiums or if the policyholder surrenders the policy. Now, who needs it? Usually life insurance is for parents with minors or special needs adults or adults who own property together. They should consider purchasing a life insurance policy. But before you apply for life insurance, you should analyze your financial situation, you and your family's financial health, and determine how much money would be required to maintain your beneficiaries or whoever your loved ones are that are going to receive the money upon passing. You should understand how much that standard of living would be and meet that need when you're purchasing a policy. The other thing to consider is how long you would need that coverage for. For example, if you are the primary caretaker and you have two children, maybe 2 years old and 4 years old, you would want enough insurance to support your custodial responsibilities until your children are grown up and able to support themselves, usually 18 to 25 years of age. And so you might consider taking out a policy for that amount of time. And how does life insurance work? There are a couple of main components of life insurance. The first is the death benefit. That is the face value or the amount of money that your insurance company will guarantee that the beneficiaries would receive. The second is premiums. So you as a policyholder would pay a certain amount every month, and that is known as your premium. And those at higher risk, if you are older, if you are higher risk in terms of your health, you would possibly have higher premiums. And those factors that are used to determine your premium are based on your age, your gender, your medical history, occupational hazards, and also risk of your hobbies. And for your life insurance to remain in force, the policyholder must pay a premium upfront or pay regular premiums over time. And what happens with term life insurance? In term life insurance, your policies will expire after that certain number of years, whereas in permanent, those will remain active. And the third piece of life insurance is the cash value. So cash value actually has two purposes. If you take a life insurance policy, you have a savings account that the policyholder can use during the lifetime, and cash will also accumulate on a tax deferred basis. And so if you have a policy and you put a certain amount of money in that policy, and you want to go and purchase a house, you can, or a car, or take a small loan, you can use that money that is in your life insurance policy as collateral. But what are the alternatives to life insurance? If a life insurance policy seems too restrictive, what are the alternatives? You can invest, which we talked about during our last session. There is a death and dismemberment insurance that you could possibly look to invest your money in, and then you could also invest in a high yield savings account. But what are the advantages of life insurance? There are three main advantages. There is tax deferred growth, because your permanent life insurance has an investment component that allows you to grow wealth on a tax deferred basis, which means you don't pay any taxes on any of the interest you make in the policy or any of the dividends that you receive or the capital gains. So any money that you make while your money is invested, you don't pay taxes on it until you withdraw that money, which is very similar to your retirement account benefits of your 401ks and your 403bs. The second advantage is that you can borrow against the cash value. And the third is you have accelerated benefits where you can receive about 25 to 100% of that death benefit value if you develop a condition and you need to pay medical bills. What are the disadvantages of life insurance? The first is the cost. Permanent life insurance may require higher premiums than term life insurance. Term life insurance is generally less expensive. The second is tax implications. If you decide to surrender your policy, you might lose money. If you decide to take a loan based on that cash value, that face value, and you have a loan outstanding and you pass away and that loan is still outstanding, there can be tax implications for your beneficiaries. If you do take out loans or accelerated benefits, that could reduce that first death benefit that is paid out to your beneficiaries. And the fourth is that term life insurance, when your policy expires, you lose the money that you paid in case you're still alive. So if I take out a life insurance policy and I pay about $200 every month for, let's say, 10 years, and the face value of my money or that death benefit of my money, if I die in 10 years, is, let's say, $1 million that goes to my loved ones. But because I am young, they have a lower risk. And so they believe that it's good for them if I take out a life insurance. I would, throughout that 10 years of the life insurance that I've taken out, I have paid $24,000 to the company if I pay $200 a month. But in 10 years, if I've not passed away, then they get to keep that $24,000 and they don't have to give $1 million to my beneficiaries. And in the resources section, I've attached a list of life insurance companies that you can refer to. Please make sure to do your research before investing in a life insurance. And so the takeaway for life insurance is that it's highly dependent on your company, in terms of the financial company that you go with and who you take a policy out from. So choose carefully and make considerations for your needs before you invest in life insurance. Okay, now for 529 accounts and tools for education savings. We've heard of 529 accounts. They're across states in the US. But what are 529 accounts? So they are a tax advantaged plan, which allows you to invest after tax money. So money that you get where you've already paid your tax. It allows parents, grandparents, and guardians to save money for their children or their beneficiaries' education expenses. And it helps pay for college. It can pay for kindergarten through the 12th grade. It can help loan repayments, and leftover funds can also be put into that Roth individual retirement accounts or the Roth IRAs. And there are two main types of 529s that you will hear about. There are prepaid tuition 529s and education savings plan 529s. Now, what is the difference between these two? In the prepaid tuition, you prepay all or part of the costs of an in-state public college tuition. And you can also convert that money to use at a private or out-of-state college. There is also a separate private college 529 plan, which is for private colleges in the US. And you can, when you're going in to create an account, you can switch over whenever you'd like. You can convert that. If you start off with a public college education prepaid tuition plan, you can convert it into a private or out-of-state plan as well. What is an education savings plan? It's also known as a 529 college savings plan, which are tax advantage investment accounts that are designed for education savings. They work very similar to your Roth 401ks or Roth IRAs, where you invest your money in mutual funds or similar investments. And the 529 plans, when you log in, will offer you investment options from which you can choose how to segment your money. Now, what are the steps in order to choose a 529 plan? The first is choose a 529 plan between your prepaid tuition and your education savings plan. You would invest your money as well. You first choose a 529 plan based on your tax advantages, the fees and expenses of different accounts, the performance history of the plan. You could open a 529 in the state that you live in, or you could open an account across any of the 50 states in the US. You open the account and you designate a beneficiary. If you have multiple kids, you could open multiple 529s for each of your children or beneficiaries. The third step is you contribute to the plan. There are no minimums. If you want to invest $20 and put $20 into the plan, you definitely can. You can also automate in case you want a certain amount being taken out of your monthly payment or your income every month. You can definitely automate it. And there are certain limits that can affect gift taxes when you contribute to the plan. The fourth step is that you need to choose a 529 investment portfolio. So once you transfer your money into a 529, like we've talked about before for your retirement accounts and for your investment accounts, make sure your money is not just sitting there in an account. You need to make sure that you are buying something with that money and investing that money in something. So you would choose an age-based fund. So similar to your retirement fund where you know, okay, I'm going to retire in 2040. I'm going to put my money in a target date 2040 fund. Similarly, here in the 529, if you know that your beneficiary or your children are going to, go into college starting 2030, you would put your money in an enrollment date fund or an age-based fund. If you are more risk averse, you want to put it into a static investment portfolio where it's growing constant at a steady rate. You could do that as well. What your age-based or enrollment date-based funds do is they are more aggressive when the children or the beneficiaries are younger, and they invest more in stocks that are going to grow high risk, high reward in the early years because you can always recuperate that money. And so they put it into more risky, but more higher reward situations at the early ages. And when the children or beneficiaries start to grow closer to that enrollment date, then they put it into more safe funds to make sure that you have that money ready for whenever you need it. And the fifth and last step is to withdraw the funds. You can use the 529 or education savings to pay for college costs at any eligible institution, which covers 6,000 US colleges and universities and 400 international schools as well. And like I mentioned before, you can be a New York resident and invest in, say, a plan in Virginia and send your student to college in North Carolina. And so it just depends on what plan is right for you because there are certain minute differences between the plans. What are the tax advantages? The earnings of 529s are tax-free. There is little to no federal or state taxes on withdrawal for qualified education expenses. And 30 states offer state income tax deductions, which means that you are reducing your tax liability by investing in these funds. What are qualified education expenses? Qualified education expenses means tuition, books and materials. It also includes room and board, computers, if you have special needs equipment that needs to be purchased, those are all expenses that you can put 529 money towards. And it generally does not matter which state plan you choose. You will be able to use the money no matter where you live or where your beneficiary or children go to school. What are the alternatives to 529s in case you think a 529 is not right for you? You can invest in a high yield savings account, which we've discussed previously, which gives about a 4.5% static growth. You can invest in a Roth IRA, brokerage accounts. You could invest in custodial accounts or ESAs. Okay. Now, what are some tools for children between 5 to 17 years old? So the Institute of Financial Wellness suggests that teaching kids at a young age of 5 to 7 helps develop their understanding of money management. And many money habits are set by the age of 7, which is surprisingly young if you think about it. A lot of kids are very impressionable in terms of their financial and their money habits. So you do need to start young. But what are some books that they can go through? I've listed some books here. There are some games and online applications that they can go through, and also some shows and YouTube channels that can also help. There's a personal finance guru called Beth Kobliner that suggests that cash can help show to children that money is finite, unlike handing them a plastic card, which us adults are also susceptible to, where we'll go and tap and we don't realize how much we're tapping. But actually being able to hand over cash shows that that money is going to get over. And so children become more cognizant of how they spend that money. So the takeaway here is that having children learn sooner rather than later through interactive resources can be immensely beneficial. Again, I'm just going to pause there for any questions. Okay. Seems lighter than some of our previous sessions.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I joined the session late because my computer was acting up. But I heard you mention a few things about Roth IRA. Can you elaborate a little more on this? I don't know whether you had already touched base on that prior, since I log in late. Thank you.
I did talk about Roth IRAs a little earlier. It was one of the first slides in retirement. But I believe Reshma will be distributing a recording of this and also sending out the slides. And so please feel free to go through that. And if you have any questions afterwards, I do have my email given at the end of this presentation. And so if you have any questions on it, you can email me.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Hi. I have a question. I'm sorry about the 529 accounts. So I know a friend that has it, and she's swears by it. I don't have one for my kids because my understanding is that it's only for educational purposes. So, of course I want my kids to go to school, but God forbid they don't go. What happened to the money? I know let's say I have 2 kids. So if my son doesn't go or doesn't use it because he has a scholarship or whatever, and then I could use it for my daughter as well, or even for myself, correct? Like anybody in the family,
Yes.
do I have to put all the beneficiaries that I think can use that money at one point into the account?
You can add beneficiaries as well. So if you think you would like to use it after, if you think your kids won't use it and you'd like to use it for yourself, you can definitely add all of those as beneficiaries. I do not believe there is a time limit. Like it's not, but within a year of opening the account, you need to add all of your beneficiaries. I will recheck on that. And the other piece is that you don't need to only use it for college. You can use it for kindergarten through 12th grade as well. You can use it on equipment, on room and board for your children. So even if they get a scholarship, if you ever need to use it on any equipment, on computers, on any of that stuff, you can. There are also cases and situations where you can withdraw the money for medical expenses. That differs state to state, but you do have options in case you do not want to only use that money for education purposes, but those differ.
Okay, and one more question. Let's say I go for a Roth or IRA account instead. Since they little, will that affect their taxes when they become like an adult and start paying their own taxes?
It would affect their, if they're withdrawing money from that, it will affect their taxes. Because whenever you make withdrawals from the Roth IRAs, then you need to pay taxes. And so it can affect them, yes. But that's if they make withdrawals.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good questions. Okay. I know Angela had talked about joint accounts and joint cards. Hey, Angela.
Question. I wanted to know, could the 529 be used for vocational school, or it has to be like colleges and universities?
That is a good question. I am not entirely sure. I mean, my gut instinct is that you should be able to use it for vocational school or any kind of education purpose. But let me look into specific vocational schools for you.
All right, perfect.
And get back to you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Angela. Okay, joint cards and cards. So what are joint accounts? When you have a bank account, which is a savings checking account, or a brokerage account, which are your investment accounts, retirement accounts that are owned and shared by two or more people with equal access to funds, as well as fees and charges. Those are joint accounts when you're sharing an account. Now, what are the pros of joint accounts? You can have transparency into spending habits. Yes, Reshma, anyone is free to add me as a joint member on their account. But that does mean that you are liable for fees and charges that the other account holder can, that the account holder has. But there are transparencies about spending habits that are a pro if you want to, you want to be a nosy partner or child or parent, and you want to have insight into whoever's on that joint account with you. You can have transparency into spending habits. It's easy to budget and pay expenses when you have shared income. And also in terms of feelings, you might grow close, and it contributes to closeness with people on the account. It's especially in financial intimacy. What are some of the cons? There is a lack of financial autonomy and privacy. You are accountable for debts and expenses. So please make sure that in case anyone is adding you to their joint account, or you are adding anyone, they are accountable, and you might be accountable for debts and expenses on that account. And it could be difficult to transition into separate accounts in case you ever need to unmerge those accounts. Fortunately, though, two people are not forced into an either-or solution. It's not that you have to have only a joint account or only separate accounts. You can use a separate account for personal spending and then have a joint account for joint expenses and payments. So if you pay rent or mortgage or childcare or utilities with a partner or with a family member and you would like to join your account, you can enjoy the benefits of both accounts, joint bill paying, as well as your personal accounts. And it's not uncommon for partners to have a blend, or family members to have a blend of shared and separate accounts. The main thing to consider here is that you are liable for any debts and expenses. What are joint credit cards? Joint credit cards allow you to share a line of credit and responsibility for debt payment with another person. What are some of the pros to joint credit cards? you will have fewer bills to manage as a household if your transactions can be consolidated. If you are someone that has a lower credit score, you can access more favorable credit card terms. You might get access to a higher credit card that with better benefits, better cash backs. If you're on a credit card with someone that has a higher credit score, so in case you are looking to get access to a better credit card when you have a lower credit score, it might be beneficial to have a joint credit card in those situations. And it can also help consumers with lower credit scores improve their credit score if they are on a joint credit card and those payments are being made more regularly. Please note that if you do have a separate credit card there, and you do have debt that is not being paid, you have fees on your previous credit cards, it can also negatively impact the other person on the account. And so make sure that if you have a joint credit card, you are speaking openly about your credit score and the other person's credit score as well. So if you are considering a joint account, make sure to have a very frank and open conversation with the person you are co-applying with about the responsibilities that come with that card. And it's a very good idea to make sure that you lay out everything on the table, including what your spending habits are and what your credit philosophy is before entering into a joint credit card situation. And it's also good to designate roles and responsibilities because you are legally responsible for repaying any charges, even if the other person on your joint credit card is making numerous charges, thousands of dollars. You do need to make sure that you are paying it because you are equally responsible. If they are doing that and your card is not paid off, it can negatively affect your score as well. So make sure you discuss all of these things and set up guidelines for how much you both expect to charge to the account in total. How will you make payments? Who will make the payments? When will you make those payments? In order to make sure that you are not accruing debt or any of those nasty interest charges or expenses that you do not need to pay. And like always, if a joint credit card sounds overwhelming, there are options where you can add a person as an authorized user. So what happens when you add someone as an authorized user? They'll be able to make purchases on the card, but you'll still have full control over the account. So the account can help improve that person who is added as the authorized user, their credit. You can help grow their credit if that's a motivating factor for opening a joint account. There's always this option of adding an authorized user. And even if you do choose to have a joint account, you should also consider possibly having separate accounts, which does provide a backup in case the relationship ends or the joint account is not working out. So that is one of the cons of having a joint credit card, that it's complicated if a relationship ends. Both parties are responsible for repaying the debt, and it can also impact scores. And also, many financial institutions may or may not offer joint credit card accounts, whereas a lot more will offer authorized users. And in terms of having that control for the authorized users, there's always the possibility to remove someone from the account at any time, which allows more control by the main cardholder. And there's also limits that you can set on your authorized user's account. You can set payment limits or spending limits to also reduce the risk that your authorized user is going to spend too much. Hey, Angela.
Hi, question. So would an authorized user, would their credit score be impacted if the main account holder wasn't, or missed a payment or what have you? Like, would their stuff impact your stuff if you were an authorized user?
Yes, it works both ways. It would work both ways. If the joint, so usually you would have most times you'll have the main card holder who's the more responsible, higher credit score, and you're trying to raise the authorized user's credit score or build it. So you might add a kid as your children as your authorized user, and make sure that you're managing it correctly. But yes, it can, to answer your question, it can work both ways. If that person as your main card holder is not doing well, it can impact negatively the authorized user as well.
Thank you. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the takeaway for joint accounts and joint cards is that there are pros and cons to both joint and separate accounts. Have a discussion, understand what works best for your situation, and consider a possible mix of both if that's something that you're looking for. Okay, we're going to move on to conversation topics around finance. And so just to round off our series, these are some topics that you can have. We started off the series, we talked about how money permeates across aspects of our lives. And so here are some conversations to have with partners, family, maybe partners before you get married, if you're considering getting married, family, yourself, your parents, your kids, and even, before a wedding. And then also just general experiences like buying a house or buying a car. What are some things that you should consider? So in terms of kids and weddings, we'll just quickly go through this list. In terms of kids and weddings, the number of kids, when you want kids, again, money permeates across all of these aspects, and we don't always realize it. Who will work after marriage if that changes? What do you want the wedding to look like? Locations, costs, financial splits, again, joint accounts, joint credit cards, prenups, how you're going to divide expenses, retirement, and also financial transparency in terms of your debts and your loans. Things that you can talk about with yourself, with your partner, with family is lifestyle. You have to understand what your own lifestyle looks like, what you enjoy, what your income is, what your expenses are before even speaking with it about anyone else. So your personal lifestyle, your family lifestyle, your parents' lifestyle, income levels, your list of accounts and all the amounts, debts and interest rates, monthly expenses, total income, where do you want to live, short and long-term financial goals, and also goals in general. In terms of work, how do you talk about it at work? You should research what you're trying to get at if you want to raise, negotiate, practice conversations and how to negotiate for a raise, or discuss what you're doing well at work. And again, at work, it's always good to collect data long-term to be able to bolster those discussions when going in for a raise. Explore solutions with your manager, with your boss, and also discuss goals and priorities that you have. And all of these contribute to what can grow your money. They see that you are collecting this data on how you are doing. They see that you are growing through your work, and they will want to discuss, what your goals and your priorities and your path for your work and ultimately money looks like. With your children, what is meaningful for them? How money is earned? How do you earn money? How is money in general earned? What are the different paths available to them? What are their needs versus their wants? How do they start saving? What the importance of saving looks like? What are price tags? What are budgets? And honesty and habits that are important to them. And then what about talking to friends? Talking to friends, you could talk about tips for saving. You could share investing and saving guides and conversations. How do we accommodate each other's financial situation when we go out for a dinner or when we meet? And how do we make sure that we are collectively meeting goals that each of us have? How do we support each other in changing or improving money habits? What are our friends' favorite books, financial gurus, applications that they like to use, or any tools that they like to use? With parents, we can consider talking about their retirement goals. Do they have enough money for retirement? Do we have other family resources to support their goals? Any kind of life insurance that they might have forgotten about, any care options that they're looking into? Who will be their power of attorney, their final wishes, funeral wishes, and payments for those? And then in terms of general experiences, negotiating for a car, researching houses, being conservative because there are additional costs that add up, and also checking for perks in terms of your credit cards and giving back. A lot of times you don't have, we think of giving back as purely giving back in terms of money, but consider giving your time as an alternative to purely giving money. And so this was just a small starter list. Please feel free to branch out and have conversations beyond this. And this was the main aim of the series, to make sure that we are talking about finance and all of these different aspects of our lives and having more open conversations about it. So talk to your friends, talk to your partners, talk to your children, talk to yourself. But yeah, any questions around these conversational areas? Okay. So just to with the last couple of minutes that we have here. Sorry, before we go on. Hey, Angela.
I was going to say the conversation with friends is actually really important. And I think it needs to happen more often than not. Like, everybody tries to keep up an appearance or has an assumption about what somebody can or can't do. And I just wish someone would be like, I have $40 to go out. This is what I got. What are we doing? Like, just, it would take away the shame and the guilt and the pressure, like, because it's nothing to feel guilty or shameful about for having a budget. Like, it's not a bad thing. And I just wish people would talk more about that with their friends.
Exactly. I think that's extremely important. And yes, like if other, don't expect everyone else to start that conversation. You can also start that conversation. That was the main aim.
Will. I'm gonna send this to my group chat right now.
That's great, Angela. But yeah, it's really important to have these conversations. And so I hope the series has helped you become more comfortable understanding some of these topics, and also making sure that when you go out and talk to your friends, even if you don't know something, asking, oh, what is that? And trying to learn about it, and having a mindset of learning about those topics that you don't know, and also explaining to your friends about topics that they might not know. Okay. So as we close off the series, just as reflection, we've done 6 workshops. What were the most valuable insights or lessons gained from this series? How has your personal, your perspective on personal finance changed as a result? What are some areas that you are still finding hard to understand and would appreciate more information on? What actionable steps have you taken so far? I hope some of you have just opened an investment account and just logged in. You don't have to put in any money, just logging in, understanding a little bit more of those accounts. What are some of those actionable steps that you've taken? And what are your next steps after the series? Please don't forget about it. Let's not be passive. Anything that we have learned, please continue with that momentum and make sure that, you know, you take actions to get to your goals. But yeah, feel free to take yourself off mute. You want to type in the chat, please feel free to put it in the chat. You want to reflect and write it down for yourself. That's also good. Yes, Angela.
I have begun a weekly financial meeting with my husband to talk about our finances and budget and goals, talking more with friends, and being really mindful of what like cultural and family lessons are still showing up now that no longer apply. So I'm very mindful of that when shopping, and having a budget anytime I'm spending money on anything. So I'm not mindlessly tapping away.
It's so easy to do that with all of our everywhere having Apple Pay and just credit card tapping. But thank you, Angela, for sharing. That's wonderful. Ken says definitely less anxious about credit cards. Yes, I'm glad. I love it. I wish all my family could attend. I love that.
I want to say thank you. I think I was in almost all of the workshops, and I learned a lot. I'm definitely waiting for the videos in YouTube. If whenever you're gonna share that, please, because I'm gonna review them. I think I feel more comfortable thinking about budgeting the retirement accounts, because even though I did them, I felt like I didn't understand completely the benefits of it. And what I'm still working on is making a budget. It's so hard for me to really make a budget. My husband and I have a joint account, and he's the one that does all the tracking because I can't.
I hope now you get to do more of that tracking, Vivian.
Yeah, so I'm working on that. But thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and also in terms of joint accounts, please make sure, like, if you do have a joint account or a joint card, that you are checking on those accounts and cards as well. Don't leave it up to only one person in the partnership or the relationship to have a track on all of those pieces, because again, it is your score, it is your money as well, it is your debts and expenses. Please make sure that if you do have a joint account or a joint card, you are checking the expenses and payments regularly. I didn't know the difference of all the investments and the things to look for on each. Okay. I hope that the investment session has helped. I know that Reshma is going to send out the slides as well as the videos. And so we did have a list of tables, a table of all of the different investment types. And so please do go through that. I know the investment topic was very heavy and had a lot of information. So please make sure that you go through it. Again, with investments, please open an account. You don't have to put any money in. Open an account, make sure that you go through the platform and become a little more comfortable, and then you can start putting money in. And there are also a lot of funds that we talked about that don't need any minimum. So you can put in $10 and see how you feel putting a much smaller, much less risky amount in, and then grow on top of that. So if anything, I want everyone to take away small steps make all the difference. So please start small in every category. Start small and work towards your personal comfortability level. Okay, so in terms of the summary for this, for our last workshop, we learned about retirement accounts and life insurance. We understood more about 529s, and we also have a list of resources that you can use to teach children. We explored joint accounts and cards and learned about the pros and cons of each. And we talked about conversations in finance that we can explore with ourselves, our friends, our family, our partners, our parents and caregivers. What are some next steps that you should look to do? Go back to your financial awareness blueprint. Please, we'll be sending out that YouTube video, which outlines every aspect of the blueprint, so you can go through it. Update the tabs. Now we're done with the first quarter of the year. Please go back and update for January, February, and March, and you'll see some of those patterns in your cash flow analysis for how you spend money and how it varies from month to month. List out all of your accounts, your credit cards, revise the solutions that we discussed, but make sure that it is what works best for you. You don't need to follow a plan that works best for anyone else. Make sure that it works well for you. Open an investment account with one of the 3 platforms that we mentioned if you don't have a platform already. Transfer in some money, doesn't have to be a lot, and buy one of 2 things. If you are still feeling overwhelmed, look at one of 2 things, either the target date funds that we talked about in the last session or the low cost S&P 500 index fund that we also talked about last session. And use the financial awareness blueprint as a catch-all for all of your finances that you can share with the people that you trust in your life with access to this information, especially in the case of emergencies. If anyone else needs access to your funds, maybe your children, maybe your parents, the videos will also show you how to password protect that file. So you don't just have a file that is sitting on your computer for anyone to access. It will show you how to make sure that you password protect it, and also only share that password with people that you trust to have that information. And like usual, and like always, the series doesn't start or end here. It should push you in the right direction to gain more control over your finances and become a little more comfortable with these topics. And I thank all of you for attending, and I hope this series has been helpful. I'll open it out to any questions. We do have a list of resources, and we have a survey at the end. And I think we do have some more books to give away, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, I hope people that haven't received the book, if you fill out the survey, you'll be entered into a raffle to win the book, which also, it's a great book, which take it chapter by chapter, read a chapter, act on it. Do not think you need to read it all in one night. Read a chapter, take steps, read it again, make sure you're comfortable with it. But it's a great book that outlines what you can do to improve your finances step by step.
Thank you so much, Ananya, for providing us with this series. I hope that it's really helpful for all of you and for students who will watch it after. Once Ananya finishes the bonus session with the blueprint, I will be sending all of the materials to you so you can view it. Thank you all for attending.
Yeah, and I have